The Times of London reports that G20 summit Europeans demand threatens to wreck deal. So they're acting like there's a fight going on here. They demand that the global government have strong controls and global taxation systems so no one can escape high taxes, regulation, control of banking, businesses, everything. And we've got a clip I'm going to play later and get economist George Humphrey's take on it, where we have Tim Geithner, who doesn't pay his taxes, as the head of the Treasury, telling CBS News that, oh, yeah, we're going to go after other corporations and companies, not just the head of GM. So, I mean, if that isn't tyranny, I don't know what it is, where they say, you do what the government says or we'll order you to step down. No judge, no jury, no grand jury, no court order, just the president says so. That's dictatorship. So you let the foreign banks take over your industry. You hand everything over. This is what the IMF and World Bank do in third world countries they're in control of. And just a really huge story that came out yesterday, Washington Post, Senate legislation would federalize cybersecurity. Everything's being seized. Rules for private networks also proposed. Now, this bill's been out for a few weeks. This is why the head of cybersecurity resigned 3 weeks ago. This was the head of the program for the federal government, said this is a Pentagon takeover of all private industry involved with computers, with how computers are built, the back doors in them, how everything operates. He said a threat to democracy. You mean a threat to the free republic. Senate legislation would federalize cybersecurity. Now, this also brings in federal funds, just like they did with the 96 Telecommunications Act, to put NSA snooping floors, whole floors, in all major telecommunications companies so the internet all runs through them already. This is so they have back doors into all the hubs to shut the web down, and that's what the Pentagon admits they're drilling for. And what they're going to do is, say China did it, shut down the web, then relaunch it as Internet 2 with total controls. And you watch, that's a big false flag terror attack, a financial and free speech attack they're planning to launch, and I've done the analysis on that. Here's UPI, U.S. cybersecurity head quits, citing growing role of spy agencies. For those watching on the Internet, I apologize. My printer ink was running out when I printed this one, so it's hard to read there on screen. In fact, guys, just pull this up. Just Google U.S. cybersecurity chief quits, and we'll just punch that up from the web itself. That's United Press International. You'll get AP, Reuters, too, when you do that. And we're trying to get him on the show, but so people say, oh, we don't see any whistleblowers on this takeover, like you say, Alex. That's all we see. Fox Fallon refused to attack Iran and refused to let Dick Cheney have Navy SEALs attack their ships, acting like Iran did it. Source MSNBC, New Yorker Magazine, and Fox Fallon, the head of CENTCOM, quit. We'd already be in World War III, folks. It is the whistleblowers. We've had NSA whistleblowers come out and say they listen to Americans having phone sex and sit around the NSA laughing. And now over 70% of phone and internet security has been handed out to private security firms owned and run by people like Felon Admiral Poindexter, the Total Information Awareness Network. So most of it's being done by private groups now. It says the official in charge of coordinating U.S. government cybersecurity operations has quit, saying the expanding control of the National Security Agency over the nation's computer security poses threats to our democratic process. Even from a security standpoint, Rob Breckstrom, the head of the Department of Homeland Security's National Cybersecurity Center, told United Press International, it is unwise to hand over security of all government networks to a single organization. Well, yeah, it's dictatorship. But then it goes on with the new bill, and he talks about the private takeover, total takeover of everything. They've announced. Senator Rockefeller, Jay Rockefeller, went on TV last week and said, if we'd be better off without the web, we got to get rid of it. New York Times says we got to get rid of the old internet, have Internet 2, where you have a subdomain on somebody else's government site or private industry. 50 corporations get it, 50 universities, and 50 agencies. That's Internet 2. And then you'll have 150 domains for each nation. You'll have a sub-account, and they'll have rules and say you can't post. This is openly, publicly stated. This is Internet 2, and they're going to end net neutrality, start taxing the web. It's already happening. This is it. Stated. And here's the bill. Senate legislation would federalize cybersecurity. It says over private industry. I mean, you can go read it for yourself. They just tell you how great it is, though. People say, well, why do you use mainstream news? Well, a lot of times they tell the truth. They just spin it. You know, they're admitting what they're doing here. They just say it's a good idea to keep it safe from China. So you understand, folks, they're openly saying they want to shut down the web, how terrible it is. The newspapers are imploding. The establishment's losing all credibility. They have to shut it down. And believe me, when they set off a nuke or release smallpox or whatever these jackasses are planning, you better believe that they're going after the web first. They're going to claim that China or Russia did it. Meanwhile, clear evidence that the computer cables to Russia and the Middle Eastern places keep getting cut by deep submersibles that only Russia, England, France, and a few other countries have. So they're busy trying to chop those as well. Here's the Geithner on ousting CEOs, reviving economy. We're going to get into that. Here is an important story. Deep solar minimum. And says the sunspot cycle 1995 to present. And if you go up to NASA's website, for some reason our one on Infowars.com, we posted this, but it links to the wrong thing. It links to a Bilderberg story, so we need to get that fixed. Deep solar minimum. Now, you can see the 12-year sun cycle. And the highest sun cycle on record was right here. You can click on it and look at the graph going back for over 60 years with scientific, very high-tech scientific instruments. Now this is in 2001, the super peak, global warming throughout the solar system. And then over here, you can see where we currently are, down there in the dip, 2009. And if you see that, there is almost no solar activity. Look at the last dip in the cycle in 1997. Look how much higher sun activity was at the last low point. I mean, this is a record low point. The sun is putting off no solar flares right now. They appear as sunspots to the naked eye, giant Coriolis ejections, hundreds of times the size of the planet Earth that shoot out. They disrupt satellites, all sorts of things. There you have it. Now, when is it set to peak again? 2012. Isn't that interesting? Everything's 2012. I don't put much stock in that, but a lot of folks do. Look at that. That's from NASA, and they've got a bunch of other graphs in here showing what's happening with that on that front. You know, I mentioned this yesterday, but it really needs to be covered again, and that is a Bloomberg article. It was everywhere else. 3 days before, we posted a George Washington Blogspot story. The guy does great research, great analysis, and he showed the Congressional Budget Office's own numbers that the current spending was approaching the size of the gross domestic product of the United States, just the bailout. And he gave a number of 11 trillion, and then 2 days later, it came out, oh no, the government admits it's worse than that. It's 12.8 trillion, $200 billion short of the entire GDP of the country. But I noticed the comments of the trolls under it were, that's a lie, he's making this up, it's not that big. And then now it's all admitted. Just denial, 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 denial. I had that story here in my stack. It doesn't matter. I covered it yesterday. It's just, there is so much going on. We posted a story yesterday. John Yoo arrested, and we documented the fact that they had not arrested him, that was a rumor. But what is not a rumor is that he has been indicted along with 11 others in Spain for war crimes and crimes against humanity for writing memos ordering the torture of children. So I thought I would let you know that. That's where that rumor came from, and we tried to whack-a-mole and try to stop that rumor, but of course we're not that influential, so who knows what will happen with that. Another White House would-be official is in trouble for not paying back taxes. Sebelius, if I'm pronouncing it right, Health and Human Secretary nominee Kathleen Sebelius recently corrected 3 years of tax returns and paid more than $7,000 back after finding unintentional errors. Now, see, that's nothing compared to all the other ones in the administration where it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, free limos, not paying taxes, period, like Geithner, and saying he didn't have to, and then fighting it. Another story here out of the Associated Press, promises, Obama's tax pledge goes up in smoke. And it talks about how he promised no new taxes of any type except if you made over $125,000 a year. Every time I say that, I get emails. They go, it's $250 with a couple. That's $125,000. Anybody making that or more? And that's your lower middle class, folks, in the real scale of things. And that's who actually buys things from you locally, and that's your real economy. But don't worry, the elite will get rid of that for you and see how you're doing out there poor. One of President Barack Obama's campaign pledges on taxes went up in puffs of smoke Wednesday. The largest increase in tobacco taxes took effect despite Obama's promise not to raise sales taxes on any kind of families earning under $250,000 or individuals under $200,000. This is the one tax that disproportionately affects the poor. And it goes on. And this, oh, well, that's okay. He broke his promise on cigarettes. No, they're raising all these different taxes, and they're getting rid of the loopholes, as they call them. That's really just tax write-offs for your house or for your mortgage deduction or for education. They're saying they're getting hundreds of deductions. So, and that's on everybody. Just massive tax increases on everybody, and it all goes not to the nation, but to foreign bankers. Your call straight ahead. More news straight ahead.